Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hanif Najmi bin Suhairi. My metric number is 2112797. I'm from Group 2, and in this video, my group will present about the roads to become a professional engineer in Malaysia. For the introduction, as engineering students, we need to know what we need to do after graduating from an engineering school accredited by the ESC. In Malaysia, it is a misdemeanor to practice engineering without registering with the BEM as a graduate engineer or professional engineer. So, as an engineering student, we must register ourselves with BEM to practice engineering in Malaysia. The question is, how to register as a professional engineer with BEM? There are three routes that can be used to register as professional engineer with BEM in Malaysia, which will be presented in the next slide. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Today I'll be presenting about the first route to become a professional engineer. The first route is the road A. This route is by doing the professional assessment examination. Firstly, a graduate engineer has to obtain 3 years of practical experience as specified in Regulation 22(1). He has to have at least 2 years of general training that provides a sound basis for professional development. He has to have at least 1 year of professional career development and training which provides exposure to the managerial and technical expertise in engineering practice. He has to have also at least 1 year of the above training that must be obtained in Malaysia under the supervision of a professional engineer in the same branch of engineering. The professional engineer also can come from the other branches of engineering, but has to have the prior approval of the board of engineers Malaysia. Secondly, he also has to pass the professional assessment examination conducted by the board of engineers Malaysia.
Continuing to Road B. Road B, professional engineer from overseas regulatory body, established Code of Conduct assessment based on Registration of Engineers Act 1967 shall be passed by the applicants to register as professional engineer. Applicants shall submit certified letters professional engineer certificate issued by an overseas regulatory body to the Board of Engineering Malaysia. Status as professional engineer shall be revised by the BEM's standard for qualification and eligibility. Applicant is not eligible to register as professional engineer if the applicant was issued with any disciplinary circumstances that entitle the disciplinary committee to cancel his registration, cited on the Registration of Engineers Act 1967. Practical experience of no less than 3 years summary using company letterhead certified by a professional engineer from the same branch in which the applicant did his practical experiences with the compiled requirements issued by the board. Next on. Last road, corporate member of IIUM. What is IIUM? Institution of Engineering Malaysia. Formed in 1959, is a qualifying body of engineers in Malaysia. Its primary function is to promote and advance the science and profession of engineering in any of all of its disciplines, and to facilitate the exchange of information and ideas related to engineering. The requirement. First requirement, corporate member of Institution of Engineering Malaysia. Corporate members shall comprise 6 grades, namely Distinguished Honorary Fellows, Fellows Distinguished Members, Senior Members and Members. All corporate members shall be engineers. The second requirement complies with the board requirements, which is 3 years practical experience Regulation 32, at least 2 years of general training, at least 1 year of professional career development and training. At least 1 year of training mentioned must be obtained in Malaysia under the supervision of a professional engineer in the same branch of engineering as the practiced by the graduate engineer.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Iqwat Arif Benazri, so I will be continuing on the presentation from my group mate. So to conclude, as discussed earlier, there are three different routes which has its own pros and cons on their own, as were explained in great details by all of my teammates. So I will be concluding or simplify all of the points that they have been stated earlier. So for the route A, it requires 3 years practical experience according to the regulation 22, and then they also need to pass the professional assessment examination. As for route B, the engineers must pass the code of conduct assessment according to the RE Act 1967, and they also must have a status on par with BEM qualifications, and they also must have at least 3 years certified practical experience by the company. And last but not least is the route C, which is the engineer must have been or is already a corporate member of IEM, and they also need to have 3 years practical experience. So as we can see that practical experience is very important to become a professional engineer. So that's all from us, and thank you, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.